We've got everybody that's coming is here. Yes. So we'll call the meeting to order at 4:17 on July 11th, 2023. Roll call of committee members.
Kelly Mackey here.
Susan Dominican here.
Monica here.
Kate McDonald here.
Thank you. We've got a quorum. This is our school. May peace dwell here. May the rooms be full of contentment. May love abide here. Love of one another, love of our school, and love of life itself. Let us remember that as many hands build a house, so many hearts build a school. Item 1.4, audience to address the committee. Alex, I'm assuming you can see it if anybody's expressing interest in talking to us.
Yeah, there's only Jim right now. So
Okay. All righty, no audience to address the committee. Item 1.5, agenda modifications. We don't have any of those, do we? Okay. Moving on to item 1.6, approving the minutes from June 13th. That was a busy meeting, it seems to me, as I read through all of this stuff. You guys got a lot done. Right.
it is on.
It is a lot. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
I can make a motion to accept the minutes from
June
13th meeting. I can second.
All right, thank you, ladies. We have a motion. Do we have any further discussion or questions? Then we will go ahead and have a vote.
Kelly Mackey, aye.
Susan Dominican, aye.
Vicky Monica, aye.
Kate McDonald, aye.
Okay. Item 1, or item 2 already. Yeah. Financial reports. 2.1, that's Jim. Hi, Jim.
Hello. Is my volume okay?
Yep.
I don't think we ever, with such a busy meeting, as you said, I don't think we ever got to touch on May. So the June is in works, but June, you still gather a lot, right? And so really it's May and then the projection for June. So I don't think we followed up on this because we were so focused on the budget. So this is as we continue to close out June, reminders on how the year was ending, 233, roughly just under 233 on the ADA. So, for consideration, I think the forward-looking budgets for facilities and items like that are looking at enrollment up towards 300. In the year that ended, we had ADA at about 233. Expenses slightly over 4 million. That's something we've talked about. And so looking to the next budget, the incremental return of enrollments was in the range of 262 as it goes higher. A lot of this is very similar to where the school had been ending towards the end of the year. You had the one-time money coming in. So it was overall about a 240 loss and then a 435 recovery from the prior year. So you get a net in the range of 194, but it was really a current 241 loss and a gain on the prior year. And we talked about the strengthening of cash. So we felt a lot better than that. Obviously, the LCAP and budget went through all that in June while this is being written. We've talked about this all year. Blue Oak was not alone when you look at the timing of attendance, how the fall and winter just was really difficult for the whole state this last year. And so it's a little bit of optimism, but there's that optimistic thinking to next year that while there's always going to be some decline in winter, we hope for a more typical decline next year and not this just precipitous drop that was experienced by almost all schools this last year. Just a really difficult drop through that time and difficult to recover. Some recovery in spring, but not enough to make up for the challenges experienced. So that's what really pushed it down to in the 233 range. You can see we're talking about 87 to 90% at the high on the attendance rate. Talk a lot this year about how it's really funded by the one-time funds. You can see that outsized impact, where when we talk about different grants in this model, we were talking about $1 million in either recovery grants or, you know, the new specialized grants, or the 435,000 for the prior year, and winding down the federal money. So this year that you're starting right now is the last year for the pandemic federal money, but the school still has the multi-year state grants. Depending on how that's adjusted by the state budget they just passed. Essentially, it's intact. The good news is it's mostly intact after the final state budget. It does sound like they're going to do some accounting movement where technically that money will no longer be available this year, but it'll be reawarded in the future year. So the plan was to stretch it. So Blue Oak shouldn't be negatively impacted because your goal was to stretch it over multiple years anyways. But looking at like learning recovery, the initial award was in the range of 330,000. My understanding is the state's going to say your award is now less than that, but over the coming years it will be restored back. I haven't seen the final allocation of how that will work out, but given that the estimate was about 111 in the year that ended and the year that's upcoming, those funds should still be secure for the school, and then wait for the establishment of the final amount for the future years. So we would still look at 22-23 ending with about $1 million extra estimate based on that, 300,000 extra in 23-24. And then depending how those grants are allocated, moving down towards like right here, 177, and then down to a model of about 40,000, unless there's some new one-time awards in upcoming budgets. So the real challenge, not only is there a need to stabilize the attendance-based funding just for stability for the school, you're also seeing, the end of these one-time boosts or the declining of these one-time boosts. And so more and more critical to operate at a stabilized attendance assumption. Expenses along the line as was being discussed throughout the end of the year. Say enrollments, revenue inclusive of the one-time money, about 4.4, expenses trending towards 4.2 at the end of the year, but that revenue being boosted, so that actually being too high for that level. So if we're at more of a 262, you would need to see expenses below 4 million, closer to that range. If those numbers all held, you could restore some of that fund balance, that timing difference on the award for last year, and in the range of 20%, more stabilizing number for the school looking forward. And the positive news about cash. So when we talk about that one-time money, all these years through the pandemic worrying about cash at the end of the year because of timing of receipts being slowed, concerns about state revenues. But when the state did have that money for those one-time grants, they issued the cash up front for many of those grants. So it created this boost you see where cash was hovering below or near the red line, the 15% line, and then suddenly spiked to a level we would love to see above that red line, representing greater cash stability. That a lot of that is the front loading of cash for the school, which you intend to use over the next 3 years. So this is very good cash outlook today, but it is a warning though that you have already received cash that you're going to take as revenue over the next 3 years. So you'll see less cash inflow over the next 3 years. So you need to operate for the next 2 years at a higher than average cash level as you work against that cash you received as an advance. So if you had a flat budget, you would expect to see cash equal to your outflows and your cash would just stay flat. If you were to do that in this environment, your cash will decline because you've already received some of that revenue early. So it's a good thing. It's a great problem to have. Happy to have it. But I just want to, keep that warning. While I celebrate the cash, we will model declines in cash, even if the school is operating slightly positive cash going forward. So we just have to take that into consideration as we look at the results going forward. And that is the end of the update. Are there any questions about the May, early June financial update?
Thank you, Jan. All right. Moving right along. Trying to think of monthly report. Sales transactions, credit card statement. Do we need to?
Yeah, point of sale transaction with the credit card statements needs to be looked at.
Okay. Do we need to?
We can vote on all of it together, I think, but we just need to. He doesn't cover those 2 items, correct, Maggie?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. So who covers them? We're just going to go through this.
It's just it's a check amount.
Should we just say, oh, we paid $20,000 to? Yeah. See if there's anything. It's the check for 50,000 up there, Maggie. Go up a little bit.
That should be the rent.
The rent, okay.
I'll look that up.
Okay. Who's gonna ask?
I was afraid that was the answer.
Yeah. Okay. I believe because there were some questions about the American Express that we're going to do that ACH from now on, so we don't have late charges. Yeah, because that was a question from the board. So we just paid 15,000 last week, at middle of last week. Is that correct, Maggie?
We paid the new charges because they just received the payment credits for the last bill.
Okay. So the 7,492 is what we just paid. So as of today, we should be back down to whatever we've charged since this statement. Correct.
Correct. Okay. Makes sense. Ready?
All right, I will move that we recommend to the board approval of the financial reports.
Let's get with that.
All right. Any questions or comments? And we will vote.
Kelly Mackey, aye.
Susan Dominigany, aye.
Vicky Monaco, aye.
McDonald, aye.
And thank you. We're moving right on here. Item 3.1, Executive Director's Report.
I like the dog picture. Just felt like July.
It is on the beach.
Yeah, on the beach, where we all should be. Okay, so staff report. First, we are moving Maggie into the executive assistant position as Alex moves on. This will be Alex's last meeting.
Oh, we're gonna miss you, but we know you're gonna go do great things.
Good things, yeah. So, and then we have the business office assistant aides and the communications data support clerk that we are recruiting. I will also have the another position for the California community school grant, which is the primary one out of that fund, up and ready to post in the next couple of days. So we'll be recruiting for that. Our summer, we're in progress with the audit, things are moving forward. I'm not going to read any more of that. I want to get to that last line, which is the ERC calculation. Jim, are you listening? Mm-hmm. So we got the reports in today or this week, and they finished it Friday and had me review them and finalize them. We are looking at, for the ERC, if it's approved by the IRS, which I think it will be, 521,000 plus some change in cash into the account within the next 5 to 8 months. So pretty excited about that. Are you excited about that, Jim? Does that feel good?
Very much, thank you.
And that'll be, we do pay Experian. He did the report for us 6%, but that is after that we've paid that 6%. So
right,
it's good. And they've been very well worth that money. So and very good to work with, easy to work with. So that pretty much is my executive director's report. Do you have any other questions? Oh, I can say one other thing. We are continuing to increase and add to our marketing. You know, our major need is to get that kindergarten program built back up to the 3 classes. We have, I think, about a half a class sitting there if we offered positions, which really isn't enough to open another class.
We have 12.
We have 12, and we have 2 big tours tomorrow, so I don't want to jinx them, but yeah, so we're still working on that possibility of doing that 3rd class. That, as far as when Jim talks about the long-term stable community, that's really what we need to get done, and that will lead into a more stable community throughout the school. There's other things we can do too, but that's the primary one. So we continue to focus on that. So marketing, I met with the new sales rep from Growing Up Chico, and I'm looking at least 2 ads in that magazine as they really move more towards, we have North State Parent, and they're more broadly the whole North State. They do Reading and other areas. And Growing Up Chico has really decided to really focus on local articles, local writers, and really the Chico and only extended to Butte County areas rather than trying to go out into Red Bluff or anything like that. Right. So it feels like a good focus, which meets what we talked about with MC2, and we can use what MC2 has done for us to do that ad. The other thing that we reached out or they reached out to us and we realized it's a pretty good deal is the public television. We have the marketing videos that MC2 did for us, They are now up and ready, and for $20 a slot, we can run our videos, so which feels really good. And they're suggesting there's a program,
Daniel Tiger, I think.
Daniel Tiger, that because we're focusing
that's what it's called.
on Daniel Tiger, because we're focusing on kindergarten, and that is the #1 program for kindergartners that we do it during that time. So we're working on that as we speak. That's my report for the finance committee.
Questions, comments?
Good.
Sustainable item 4.1, new building funding options.
Yeah, so this has taken me, this has been just not because of my own doing, but because of other people reaching out to me. This has been a big part of my job for the last few weeks. As you know, I announced towards the end of the year that Turner Impact, who we have been working with, has left the charter school building arena. So with that, sort of opened a vacuum, and so I had a number of other people. Thanks both to the real estate agency that we've worked with and Jim, come to me and talk to me about this. There's a lot of links. I'm not going to go through all of it, but we're going to start talking about this at the board this week. And I wanted to make sure the finance committee was aware of it as well. So we have 4 different agencies that have reached out to look at supporting us in the project. The first 2 were Charter School Capital and Red Hook, well known and worked with many schools in the area. I think Charter School Capital talked about like 800 schools they built. So some real knowledge there. They will be presenting tomorrow night. Red Hook also has that same sort of background, both very professional organizations, and I know it would be good to work with. They both have the same sort of model as Turner Impact, which is they build it, then they sell it. They build it, they own it, they sell it back to us. So that's both of them. The other 2, Charter School Property Solutions and Educational Facilities Group, are the ones that came through us through Jim introduced me and to John Fan of Campanile Group. They do the tax exempt bonds. So the other 2, if we worked with them, Charter School Property Solutions and Educational Facilities Group, they both work with directly buying the tax exempt bonds by the school. That means that our labor costs would be higher, but what John is proposing is that the overall cost would not be higher because of the tax exempt bonds, and that it is more stable as far as the cost and easier to pay off. So those are the issues that are going on with this right now. All of the links are there that show you the links of the different organizations. Their Zoom links. The 2 first ones have actually done some work for a presentation for us, so you can actually look at that if you would like to. So getting started on this, and again, I'll be talking about it much more in more detail tomorrow night, but I wanted to make sure that you were aware of where we were on this.
Still moving forward.
Yeah, we're still moving forward. Yes, we are.
Right. Well, thank you, Susan. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Is there discussion? Okay. So I will adjourn the meeting. The next meeting is Tuesday, August 8th at 4:15.